Stop scrolling for just a few seconds because that 1975D Lincoln penny in your drawer could be worth far more than 1 cent, but probably not for the reason you think. And if someone told you every 1975D penny is worth $1 million, there is one important truth you need to know before you get excited. Today, we're putting the 1975D Lincoln cent under the microscope. We'll uncover what the tiny d actually means, why most examples are common, which unusual coins can bring serious money, and the simple clues that could separate an ordinary penny from a collector-worthy discovery. So before you spend, clean, or throw away a 1975 penny, keep watching, because the most important detail comes near the end. The 1975D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, and more than 4.5 billion were produced. That enormous production number immediately tells us something important. The date itself is not rare. A normal circulated 1975D penny is generally worth about face value. Wait, so where does the $1 million story come from? This is where many coin videos get misleading. A regular 1975D cent does not have a documented $1 million market value. In fact, PCGS lists an auction record of $4,113 for a spectacular MS67 Plus red example sold by Heritage Auctions in 2014. That is impressive for a 1-cent coin, but it is nowhere near $1 million. Still, don't put your penny back in the jar yet, because condition can completely change the conversation. The 1975D cent is made from the classic pre-1982 copper alloy, about 95% copper and 5% zinc, and a normal example weighs about 3.11 grams. It measures roughly 19 millimeters across. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial. Now, here's the twist. Billions were made, but truly exceptional coins are a different story. Most 1975D cents spent decades rattling around pockets, cash registers, drawers, jars, and vending machines. They picked up scratches, stains, fingerprints, and contact marks. A coin that survives in bright, original, nearly flawless condition can be dramatically more interesting than one that looks like it has been through a washing machine. So imagine finding one that still has strong red color, sharp lettering, clean fields, and almost no marks. That's when the grade becomes crucial. Professional grading companies use numerical grades to describe preservation. On the high end, every tiny imperfection matters. A coin that looks perfect to your eyes may have microscopic marks that prevent it from reaching the highest grades. And this creates one of the biggest traps for beginners. Shiny does not automatically mean rare. Someone may polish a penny until it looks bright and beautiful, but cleaning can actually destroy collector value. If your 1975D appears unusually shiny, do not grab a cloth, chemical, or polishing compound. Leave it alone. Original surfaces are far more important than artificial shine. Now let's talk about something even more exciting: errors. When billions of coins are produced, tiny mistakes can happen during manufacturing. A blank can move incorrectly. A die can strike a coin off-center. A planchet can be clipped. A coin can receive an unusual strike. And occasionally, a piece can end up with a legitimate minting error that collectors are willing to pay a premium to own. But there is a huge difference between a real mint error and damage that happened after the coin left the mint. That distinction can be worth money. For example, an off-center strike may show part of the design missing because the blank was not properly centered when it was struck. The more dramatic and clearly genuine the error, while still showing the date and identifying details, the more interesting it can become. Then there are clipped planchets, where a piece of the metal blank is missing from the edge. Sounds valuable, right? Sometimes it is. But a damaged coin that was cut, bent, scraped, or altered after leaving the mint is not the same thing. Collectors want evidence that the unusual feature happened during production. And now we reach one of the strangest possibilities. A 1975 Lincoln cent could potentially be struck on the wrong planchet. That means a blank intended for another denomination could accidentally enter the cent production process. Such errors are dramatically rarer than ordinary cents, and their value depends on the exact error, authenticity, condition, and demand. This is why weight is such a powerful first test. A normal 1975D cent should weigh around 3.11 grams. If you have a silver-colored 1975 penny, don't immediately assume you discovered a fortune. Some coins have been plated or chemically altered. A genuine wrong planchet error needs professional examination, And the weight, size, edge, and metal composition all matter. So grab a digital scale if you have one. But there's another mistake people make. They see doubling. Then they see dollar signs. Machine doubling can create a flat, shelf-like appearance that looks exciting under magnification, but it usually does not carry the same premium as a true double die. Genuine varieties need to be identified by their specific characteristics, not because a letter looks blurry or doubled. And remember that tiny D? Some collectors also examine 1975 D cents for repunched mintmark varieties. Because mintmarks were applied to dies by hand during this era, variations could occur. A legitimate repunched mintmark can be collectible, although these varieties are generally worth a premium measured in dollars, not millions. So if someone tells you your ordinary 1975 D penny is automatically $1 million coin, be skeptical. But if your coin has a dramatic, authenticated mint error, exceptional grade, or important variety, that is a completely different conversation. Now comes the value reveal. A normal circulated 1975 D penny? Usually 1 cent. A nicer uncirculated example? Potentially more. A superb, professionally graded red example? Now we're talking about serious collector territory. PCGS records a $4,113 auction result for a 1975 D Lincoln Cent graded MS67 plus red. That result shows exactly why condition matters. The coin is not valuable because the date says 1975. It is valuable because an exceptional specimen survived from a massive production run. And that is the real hidden money lesson. Rarity is not always about how old a coin is. Sometimes rarity is about how few coins survived in extraordinary condition. Think about it this way. The mint made billions of 1975 D cents. But every year, coins were scratched, stained, dropped, spent, cleaned, damaged, and exposed to the elements. The population of truly elite examples becomes much smaller. That is where collectors start paying attention. Now, before you check your coin, here is your quick detective test. First, confirm the date is 1975. Second, look underneath the date for the D mint mark. Third, check the overall color and surface. Original red copper with strong luster is more desirable than a dark, heavily worn coin. Fourth, inspect the coin under magnification. Look for unusual doubling, an obvious off-center strike, a genuine clipped edge, or another feature that appears to have happened during minting. Fifth, weigh it. Finally, if something looks truly unusual, do not clean it and do not trust a random online claim. Consider having it examined by a reputable professional grading or authentication service. Because here's the part that could save you from a costly mistake. There are countless online listings claiming ordinary pennies are worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. Asking prices are not the same as auction results. Anyone can list a coin for $1 million. That does not mean anyone will pay $1 million for it. Real value comes from actual market evidence, rarity, condition, authenticity, and collector demand. So, is your 1975 D Lincoln penny worth $1 million? For a normal example, no. But could a remarkable error or extraordinary specimen be worth much more than 1 cent? Absolutely. And that is why you should never judge an old coin by its date alone. The next time you find a 1975 D penny, slow down before tossing it into a jar. Turn it over. Look closely. Check the surfaces. Examine the mint mark. Measure the weight. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and a collectible can sometimes be hiding in a detail smaller than a grain of rice. And here's the question I want you to answer. Do you have a 1975 D penny sitting in your collection right now? If you do, take a close look before you spend it. Maybe it's just a 1-cent coin. Maybe it's an unusually high-grade survivor. Or maybe, just maybe, you found an authentic mint error that deserves a professional opinion. Either way, the real treasure is knowing what you have before you let it disappear. So check those jars, old coin rolls, drawers, and family collections. You never know which small piece of American history deserves a second look. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories and surprising values behind ordinary U.S. coins, subscribe for more coin mysteries, rare varieties, and overlooked treasures. Your next discovery could be sitting in plain sight. Imagine finding a 1986 Lincoln penny in your change and discovering someone claims it could be worth $1 million. Would you spend it, save it, or stare at it for the rest of the day? Before you throw one back into circulation, there are a few details you need to know because the words "no mint mark" can sound much more exciting than they really are. Today, we're taking a close look at the 1986 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, why people connect this date to huge values, what actually makes a 1986 penny collectible, and the mistakes that can turn a harmless coin hunt into an expensive misunderstanding. And stay with me because near the end, we'll uncover the one thing you should check before deciding your penny is ordinary. First, let's clear up the mystery surrounding that missing letter. On a normal US coin, the mint mark tells you where the coin was produced. A 1986 Lincoln cent with no mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. That is not automatically an error. In fact, millions of Lincoln cents from Philadelphia were intentionally made without a mint mark. That empty space below Lincoln's date is normal. And here is where the story gets interesting. The 1986 cent uses the familiar Lincoln memorial design. Lincoln appears on the obverse, while the reverse shows the memorial. It is made primarily of copper-coated zinc, a composition introduced for Lincoln cents beginning in 1982. So a 1986 penny with no mint mark is not automatically a secret Philadelphia mistake. But don't put it away yet, because collectors do not judge every coin by its date and mint mark alone. Condition matters, errors matter, strike quality matters, and sometimes, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance can become much more interesting after a careful inspection. Think about what happens to a penny after nearly 40 years in circulation. It gets tossed into pockets, dropped on sidewalks, squeezed into vending machines, exposed to moisture, rubbed against other coins, and forgotten in drawers. Most surviving examples show where. Now imagine finding one that somehow escaped all of that. A sharply struck 1986 Lincoln cent with bright original surfaces, strong details, and almost no marks can attract more attention than a typical pocket change example. But there is an important distinction. A high-grade coin can be worth more than face value without being worth anything close to $1 million. That distinction matters. Online videos and social media posts sometimes show enormous dollar figures attached to common dates. A headline might say, 1986 penny worth $1 million, and suddenly thousands of people start searching their jars. But a claimed value is not the same thing as a verified sale. Collectors and dealers look for evidence. What condition was the coin in? Was it certified? Was there a genuine mint error? Was the price actually paid at auction? Was the listing simply an optimistic asking price? Those questions can change the entire story. Here's a pattern worth remembering whenever you see a coin with a shocking price tag. Never stop at the headline. Turn the coin over. Look closely. Then check the details. For a 1986 no mint mark Lincoln cent, start with the date. Make sure the digits are genuine and not damaged or altered. Examine Lincoln's portrait for unusual doubling or distortion. Check the lettering around the coin. Look at the rim. Then inspect the reverse, especially the words United States of America, 1 cent, and E pluribus unum. You are searching for something that does not look like normal wear. That difference is huge. A damaged coin can look strange, but damage usually happens after the coin leaves the mint. A true mint error happens during manufacturing. Collectors can pay serious premiums for dramatic, authenticated errors, but the error must be real. For example, doubling can be exciting when it is genuine. But machine doubling, die deterioration, scratches, dents, and flattened lettering can fool inexperienced collectors. This is where many people get confused. They see a letter that looks doubled and immediately imagine a fortune. Slow down. Use a magnifying glass. Compare the coin with a normal 1986 cent. If the feature looks like a random scrape, flattened edge, or irregular damage, it probably is not the treasure you were hoping for. And there is another trap: color. A 1986 copper-plated zinc cent may appear bright red, reddish-brown, or brown depending on its history and condition. Collectors can distinguish these color categories, especially when grading uncirculated cents. But shiny does not automatically mean rare. Someone may polish a coin and make it look bright, but cleaning can actually reduce collector appeal. So please, don't scrub your penny because you think you are uncovering hidden value. The best thing you can do is preserve the coin exactly as you found it. Now let's talk about the claim. Could an ordinary 1986 Philadelphia Lincoln cent, simply because it has no mint mark, realistically be worth $1 million? No. There is no sound reason to treat a normal 1986 no mint mark cent as $1 million coin. That does not mean every 1986 cent is worthless. It means the dramatic value claim needs evidence, and an ordinary example is generally just a common modern Lincoln cent. The real opportunity is separating the ordinary from the unusual. And that skill is what makes coin hunting so addictive. Imagine you are sorting through an old jar. One penny looks darker than the others. Another has a strange rim. One appears unusually sharp. You might find nothing. You might find a nice collectible. Or you might discover an error worth having professionally examined. The point is learning what to look for. Now, here is the part that could save you from making a costly mistake. If someone offers you a huge price for your 1986 penny, ask why. Is the coin professionally graded? Is there a documented mint error? Is there a comparable auction result? Can the buyer explain exactly what makes the coin valuable? A serious collector should be able to answer those questions. And if someone tells you, every 1986 penny without a mint mark is worth $1 million, that should be your warning sign, not your payday. There is another reason these stories spread so quickly. People love the idea that ordinary money can hide extraordinary wealth. It is the perfect treasure story. A penny sitting quietly in a drawer could suddenly change everything. People keep searching. But smart collectors understand that rarity is not created by excitement. Rarity comes from scarcity, condition, demand, and sometimes a genuine production mistake. So what should you do if you have a 1986 Lincoln cent with no mint mark now? First, don't panic. Second, don't clean it. Third, inspect both sides under good lighting. Fourth, compare it with reliable references or ask an experienced numismatist. And if you believe you have a genuine major error, consider professional authentication before trusting an online claim. One more thing. Condition can matter enormously. A heavily circulated 1986 penny with scratches and worn details is unlikely to attract serious premium interest. A pristine example preserved since the 1980s is a different story. But even then, you need a realistic market comparison rather than a sensational number. That is the secret most viral coin videos leave out. The biggest number on a thumbnail is not necessarily the biggest number in the real market. What matters is what collectors actually recognize and what buyers have actually paid. So, take another look at your change. Do you have a 1986 Lincoln cent with no mint mark? If you do, congratulations, you have a piece of American pocket change history. But don't call it $1 million coin just yet. Instead, ask yourself 3 questions. Does it show a genuine mint error? Is it in exceptional condition? And can its value be supported by real sales or professional certification? If the answer to all 3 is yes, you may have something worth investigating. If the answer is no, your penny may still be fun to collect, but the $1 million claim should stay where it belongs, in the world of internet rumors. And that brings us to the biggest lesson of all. Sometimes the treasure is not the coin itself. Sometimes the treasure is knowing enough to recognize when a coin really is special. Because somewhere out there, another ordinary-looking penny is sitting in a coffee can, an old collection, or a forgotten drawer. And the person holding it may have no idea what they are looking at. So before you spend that next handful of pennies, slow down and look. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Check the details. And most importantly, check the evidence. If you enjoy uncovering the real stories behind rare coins, subscribe and stay with us, because the next coin in your pocket could have a much stranger story than you expect. Imagine finding a 1987 Lincoln penny in your pocket and discovering that one tiny detail could make you wonder whether you are holding $1 million coin. Before you spend it, stop. Before you accidentally spend or lose it, because the 1987 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is surrounded by stories, rumors, and a few details that can completely change what collectors want to see. If you have a jar, drawer, old cash box, or coffee can full of pennies, this is the kind of coin worth checking carefully. Today, we are going to uncover what the missing mint mark really means, what makes a 1987 penny collectible, which mistakes can destroy its value, and why some dramatic claims about $1 million pennies need a closer look. And stay with me because near the end, I will show you the one category of error that could make an ordinary-looking 1987 cent far more interesting. The first thing you need to know is simple. A 1987 Lincoln cent without a mint mark is not automatically rare. In fact, that is exactly what you would expect from a penny struck at the Philadelphia Mint during that era. The United States Mint did not place a mint mark on Philadelphia cents. So when you turn over a 1987 penny and look beneath the date, you may see nothing at all. And that nothing is important. But here is where the mystery begins. People often see the empty space beneath the date and think, maybe the mint mark disappeared. Usually that is not what happened. The coin was generally made that way. So why are collectors still interested in a 1987 no mint mark penny? Because condition, errors, varieties, and unusual minting characteristics can change the story. And this is where many people make their first mistake. They search the date, see an enormous price online, and assume every 1987 penny must be worth a fortune. That is not how coin values work. A headline can say, 1987 penny worth millions. But a headline is not an auction result. A dramatic asking price on an internet listing is not the same thing as a verified sale. And an ordinary 1987 Philadelphia cent should not be described as a $1 million coin simply because it has no mint mark. Still, that does not mean you should toss yours back into circulation. Far from it. Let's look closer. The 1987 Lincoln cent features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, with liberty and the date surrounding him. On the reverse is the Lincoln Memorial, along with United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. When a coin has a large mintage, ordinary examples are usually common. But large production also creates opportunities for unusual pieces to escape the minting process. That is why collectors pay attention to errors. And now we get to the part that could make your 1987 penny worth checking twice. Look for mistakes that happened during production today. A major off-center strike, a dramatic doubled feature, a broad strike, an unusual die problem, or another genuine mint error can make a coin much more desirable than a normal example. But there is a catch. The error has to be real. Coins are damaged every day after leaving the mint. People flatten them, scrape them, punch holes in them, grind their edges, expose them to chemicals, and even intentionally alter dates. Those changes may look strange, but strange does not automatically mean valuable. For example, if the lettering looks doubled, do not immediately celebrate. Mechanical doubling can sometimes create a flat, shelf-like appearance that is very different from true hub doubling. A real double die variety generally shows specific design characteristics rather than random damage or movement during striking. And here is another trap. Do not polish the penny. If you think you have found something special, the worst thing you may do is grab a cleaning cloth and try to make it shine. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural brightness, or other evidence that reduces desirability. Leave the coin alone. Place it somewhere safe and have the unusual feature examined by someone who understands Lincoln cents. Now, let's talk about condition. High-grade coins are judged under professional grading standards. Tiny marks matter. Contact marks matter. Original luster matters. Strike quality matters. Even the way the coin was stored can affect its appearance. That is why you should never judge value by date alone. And there is another reason people get confused. The word mint. A coin with no mint mark does not mean it was made secretly, illegally, or by accident. For a Philadelphia Lincoln cent in this period, the absence of a mint mark is normal. If you see a D, that indicates Denver. If you see an S on certain Lincoln cents, that can indicate San Francisco production. But for a standard 1987 Philadelphia cent, no mint mark is exactly what you should expect. So if someone tells you that every 1987 penny without a mint mark is automatically worth $1 million, be skeptical. A real collector wants evidence. What error is present? What grade is the coin? Has the coin been professionally authenticated? Has a comparable coin actually sold for that amount? Those questions separate a potentially valuable discovery from an internet rumor. Now, here comes the value reveal. What is a normal 1987 Lincoln cent worth? For most circulated examples, the answer is close to face value. Even many uncirculated examples are not automatically worth huge money. The serious value comes from exceptional condition, recognized varieties, or genuine mint errors. So where does the million-dollar story come from? Usually, it comes from the way rare coin content gets presented online. A spectacular price associated with a rare coin, an unusual error, or an unrelated example can get attached to a common date. Then the story spreads. Before long, people begin believing that every coin with the same date carries the same jackpot. It doesn't. Instead of believing every penny is worth a fortune, you are learning what to look for. Imagine opening an old jar and finding a 1987 penny that looks unusually sharp. You inspect Lincoln's portrait. You check the lettering. You examine the date. You look at the reverse. Then you notice something that does not look like normal wear. That is the moment to stop. Do not clean it. Do not scratch it. Do not try to fix it. Take clear photographs and compare the feature with trusted numismatic references. If it still looks unusual, consider professional authentication or grading. And remember, a genuine mint error is not valuable simply because it is weird. The type, size, location, and authenticity of the error all matter. There is also something else worth remembering about the 1987 cent. It is a copper-plated zinc penny. That means the coin is primarily zinc with a thin copper coating. If that outer layer is damaged after leaving the mint, you may see exposed material underneath. But post-mint damage is not the same thing as a mint error. This distinction can save you from wasting time and money. So, could your 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny be worth $1 million? A normal example? No. There is no good reason to assume that an ordinary 1987 Philadelphia cent is $1 million coin just because it lacks a mint mark. Could an extraordinarily rare, authenticated coin involving a major error or exceptional characteristic be worth far more than face value? That is the part worth investigating. And this is why you should never judge a coin from a viral title alone. The most valuable discovery may not announce itself. It may sit quietly in a forgotten jar for decades, waiting for someone to look closely. So now I want to know, do you have a 1987 Lincoln penny with no mint mark? Look at it tonight. And if you notice something unusual, don't assume it is worthless, but don't assume it is $1 million treasure either. Verify it. Because in the world of rare coins, the difference between a common penny and a valuable discovery can come down to one tiny detail. And that tiny detail is exactly why you should always check your change. If you enjoy uncovering hidden money secrets, rare American coins, and the stories behind the pennies people overlook every day, subscribe and stay with us. Your next ordinary-looking coin might have a story you never expected. Imagine finding a 1988 Lincoln penny in your change and learning that one tiny detail could turn an ordinary 1-cent coin into a serious collector's prize. But before you start dreaming about $1 million payday, there is a mystery you need to solve, because most 1988 pennies are not worth anywhere near that amount. The real story is much more interesting. If you have a 1988 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, do not throw it away. That missing letter is actually normal for pennies made at the Philadelphia Mint that year. And that is exactly where the confusion begins. Thousands of people see no mint mark, hear stories about rare pennies selling for fortunes, and assume they have struck gold. Today, we are going to separate the real treasure from the hype, show you what makes a 1988 penny collectible, and reveal what you should actually look for before spending it. The real question is simple. What could make this ordinary-looking penny unusual? Start with the date. You are looking for 1988. Then look directly beneath the date. If there is no letter, that points to Philadelphia production. If you see a D, you have a Denver issue instead. Neither mint mark by itself creates $1 million coin. Now flip the penny over. This is where your inspection gets more interesting. Study the lettering, especially the reverse design. Look closely at the letters in United States of America, 1 cent, and E pluribus unum. Compare the shapes and spacing with a known normal 1988 cent. Collectors often examine lettering and design details because unusual die varieties can sometimes create visible differences. And do not forget the front. Look at Liberty. Look at the date. Look at Lincoln's ear, hair, bow tie, and other details. A double die variety can show noticeable doubling on specific design elements. But there is a huge difference between a true double die and damage caused after the coin left the mint. That distinction could save you from making a costly mistake. Machine doubling, scratches, dense, flattening, and ordinary where can create shapes that look dramatic under a phone camera. A genuine double die is a die variety created during the manufacturing process, and the doubling tends to have a distinctive appearance and location. So if your 1988 penny seems doubled, do not immediately list it online for $1 million. Take a breath. Get a magnifying glass. Use good lighting. Compare it with another 1988 cent. If the difference still looks convincing, consider having the coin examined by a reputable numismatist or grading service. Now let's talk about condition, because this is another place where ordinary pennies can become interesting. This is the power of grading. Professional grading considers factors such as wear, luster, strike quality, surface marks, color, and overall preservation. Lincoln cents can be graded on a numerical scale, and copper cents are also commonly described by color designation: brown, red-brown, or red. For high-grade copper coins, original red color can matter greatly. Here is a quick pattern interrupt. Take a 1988 penny out of your pocket right now. Do not clean it. That is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. Cleaning a coin can leave scratches, unnatural shine, or chemical damage. Even when the coin looks brighter afterward, collectors may consider it damaged or improperly cleaned, which can reduce its desirability. Instead, handle it by the edges and keep it somewhere safe. Now we reach the question everyone wants answered. Could a 1988 no-mint mark penny actually be worth $1 million? For an ordinary example, no. There is no credible reason to assume a normal 1988 Philadelphia cent is $1 million coin. The $1 million figure belongs in the world of extraordinary rarities, legendary specimens, major errors, or heavily publicized auction records involving other coins. It should not be used as the automatic value of your everyday 1988 penny. And that distinction is incredibly important. A coin can be interesting without being worth a fortune. It can be historically meaningful without paying your mortgage. And it can still be worth checking. In fact, the best treasure hunting mindset is not every old coin is worth millions. It is every unusual coin deserves a closer look. So what would make your 1988 cent worth investigating? First, a genuine mint error. Look for unusual features that could have happened during striking, such as major off-center strikes, wrong planchets, clipped planchets, or other recognized errors. Minor damage is not the same thing. The error must be consistent with a manufacturing problem, not something that happened years later in a parking lot, washing machine, or pocket. Second, a legitimate variety. If the design shows true double die characteristics or another documented variety, that can attract collector attention. The exact value depends on the variety, condition, demand, and authentication. Third, exceptional grade. A nearly perfect 1988 cent can be far more interesting than a worn example. But remember, looks perfect is not the same as professionally certified high grade. Tiny marks invisible from across the room can become obvious under magnification. Fourth, provenance and authentication. If a coin has a documented history, unusual certification, or a recognized auction record, that can make it much more significant. Serious collectors want evidence. A dramatic story without evidence is just a story. And here is another trap. If you want to know what a coin is really worth, look for verified auction results, reputable price guides, certified examples, and actual transactions. That is how you separate internet fantasy from numismatic reality. Now imagine you find a 1988 no-mint mark cent that looks unusually sharp. You check the date. You check the reverse. You inspect the lettering. You see something that looks like doubling. What should you do? Do not polish it. Do not scrape it. Do not bend it. And definitely do not throw it into a pile with ordinary change. Put it in a protective holder, photograph both sides, and get a second opinion from someone who understands Lincoln cent varieties and errors. That small decision could tell you whether you have a normal penny, a nice collectible, or something genuinely unusual. But there is another reason this coin is worth remembering. The 1988 Lincoln cent is part of a huge era in American pocket change. These coins passed through cash registers, vending machines, restaurants, gas stations, school cafeterias, and countless hands. Most disappeared into circulation without anyone thinking twice. That is what makes coin hunting so addictive. The treasure does not always announce itself. Sometimes it is a tiny design difference, Sometimes it is a mint error. Sometimes it is an unusually preserved coin sitting unnoticed in a jar for decades. And sometimes the biggest discovery is simply learning that a viral claim is not true. So, if you have a 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, check it anyway. The absence of a mint mark is normal for Philadelphia, but it gives you the starting point for identifying the coin. Then examine the condition, the lettering, the design details, and especially any unusual features that appear to be part of the original strike. Remember the golden rule. Rarity plus condition plus authenticity equals real collector interest. Real evidence. That is why patience matters. The most valuable clue may be small, hidden, and easy to overlook during a quick glance. So slow down and inspect carefully. Not hype. Not a random online listing. Not $1 million headline. So now I want you to think about your own coins. Do you have a 1988 penny hiding in an old jar, a dresser drawer, a family collection, or a box of childhood change? Take a look. Turn it over. Check the details. And if you discover something strange, do not assume it is worthless just because the coin looks ordinary. Because that is the lesson behind the 1988 Lincoln cent. The date alone may not make you rich. The missing mint mark alone may not make you rich. But the right error, the right variety, the right condition, and the right authentication can completely change a coin's story. And that is why you should never judge a penny by its face value. If you enjoyed this hidden money mystery, subscribe for more coin discoveries, rare varieties, and surprising pieces of American pocket change. Because somewhere out there, another ordinary-looking coin may be waiting for someone who knows exactly where to look. Imagine finding a 1991 Lincoln penny in your change and discovering it could be worth $1 million. Sounds unbelievable, right? But before you throw that old penny back into a jar, there is something you need to know. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is surrounded by wild claims, confusing listings, and a very important question. Is there actually $1 million version hiding in ordinary pocket change? Today, we are going to examine this coin from every angle, including the date, the missing mint mark, errors, condition, and the biggest mistake people make when searching for a fortune. The key detail is what that missing letter means when you examine your coin today. If your penny says 1991 and has no mint mark beneath Lincoln's portrait, you are looking at a Philadelphia minted Lincoln cent. Many collectors expect every valuable coin to have something unusual stamped on it. Here's the twist. A 1991 Lincoln cent without a mint mark is not automatically rare. In fact, Philadelphia produced enormous numbers of Lincoln cents that year, and the absence of a mint mark is normal. If you have one in a jar, don't assume it is $1 million coin. But normal does not mean worthless. Every year, collectors search through old cents looking for coins with unusual strikes, dramatic errors, exceptional condition, or varieties that separate one example from millions of ordinary pieces. And that is where our mystery begins. Picture this. You are sorting through a pile of pennies from an old coffee can. Most look dark, scratched, and forgotten. Then you spot 1991. No mint mark. Your heart jumps. You search online and see headlines claiming that a 1991 penny can be worth huge money. Suddenly, that little cent doesn't look like 1 cent anymore. This is where people get fooled. Online marketplaces often show coins listed for enormous prices. But a listing price is not the same thing as a confirmed sale. Anyone can ask $1 million for a penny. The real question is whether a collector actually paid it. So, let's separate the internet fantasy from the numismatic facts. A standard 1991 Philadelphia Lincoln cent was made for circulation. It carries Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It is composed primarily of copper-plated zinc, and its tiny size makes serious errors surprisingly interesting when they occur. Look closely at the date and the letters in Liberty and I in God We Trust. Then move your eyes beneath the date. If there is no mint mark, that is expected for a Philadelphia issue from 1991. Wait, doesn't that destroy the $1 million story? Not necessarily, because the real opportunity in coin collecting is learning to recognize what is unusual. A coin can become far more interesting when it has a genuine minting error. Think about a dramatic off-center strike, a major doubled feature, a broad strike, a clipped planchet, or another error created during production. These mistakes can attract collectors because they are not supposed to happen. But there is a catch. Not every strange-looking penny has a valuable mint error. Coins are beaten up after leaving the mint. They get scratched, bent, stained, polished, chemically altered, and damaged by machines. A scratch through Lincoln's hair is not automatically an error. A shiny surface does not mean proof. A missing letter caused by wear is not necessarily a rare variety. This is why identification matters more than excitement. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where an ordinary coin can become a collector's coin. Imagine two 1991 cents. They were made in the same year in the same general way, but one spent 30 years rolling around in pockets, cash registers, and coin jars. The other was protected shortly after leaving the mint. One may show heavy wear and scratches. The other may still have sharp details, strong luster, and minimal marks. Collectors call high-condition coins uncirculated or mint state when they meet the appropriate standards. Professional grading services can assign numerical grades that help establish condition. And at the highest grades, small differences can matter. Another warning: don't polish your penny. It might seem logical that cleaning an old coin would make it more attractive. Usually, the opposite happens. Cleaning can leave hairlines, unnatural shine, or other damage that lowers collector appeal. If you think you've found something special, leave the surface alone. Now, let's return to that million-dollar claim. Could a normal 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent be worth $1 million? There is no credible basis for treating an ordinary example as a million-dollar coin. A sensational online headline should never replace auction records, professional grading information, or documented sales. And that distinction is important. The coin's face value is 1 cent. Most circulated examples are generally worth around face value, while better uncirculated examples can bring more. Genuine errors or unusual varieties can be worth substantially more, but their value depends on exactly what the error is, how dramatic it is, and how collectors view it. So if someone tells you, every 1991 penny without a mint mark is worth $1 million, don't believe it. But if someone says, check your 1991 pennies carefully because unusual examples can be collectible, that's a much smarter statement. Now here's the part that can save you from missing something. Take your 1991 penny and compare it with another 1991 cent. Use a bright light, but avoid scratching the surface. Look at the date from different angles. Study Lincoln's portrait. Check the edges. Turn the coin over and examine the memorial, lettering, and rim. Do you see anything that looks doubled in a way that could have happened during the minting process? Is the coin dramatically off-center? Does the blank metal appear incomplete or strangely shaped? Is there a clear missing section of the planchet? Does the strike look unusually weak in a specific area? Those are the kinds of clues that deserve a second look. And here's something else collectors learn quickly. Context matters. If a coin looks strange, ask why. Did the mint make it that way? Or did something happen afterward? That's the difference between a mint error and ordinary damage. A genuine error is usually part of the manufacturing story. Damage is something that happened later. That one question can completely change your search. Now imagine you have found a 1991 cent that genuinely appears unusual. What should you do? First, don't clean it. Second, photograph both sides clearly. Third, compare it with reputable numismatic references and known examples. And if the feature looks significant, consider getting an opinion from an experienced coin dealer or professional grading service. Do not send money to a stranger simply because they promise your penny is worth millions. And don't pay huge fees based on a dramatic internet claim before understanding what you actually own. Here's the surprising truth about this coin. The biggest value of the 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent may not be the price of the coin itself. It may be what the coin teaches you. It teaches you that rarity is not determined by age alone. It teaches you that a missing mint mark can be completely normal. It teaches you that condition matters. It teaches you that genuine errors are different from damage. And most importantly, it teaches you to question extraordinary claims. Because the rare coin world has one powerful rule: the story must be supported by evidence. So, could your 1991 penny be worth more than 1 cent? Absolutely, if it has the right condition, variety, or genuine mint error. Could every 1991 no-mint mark penny be worth $1 million? No. That reveal may make your search more exciting. Why? Because now you know what to look for. The next time you find a 1991 Lincoln cent, don't casually toss it into the nearest pile. Hold it under good light. Check the date. Confirm the absence of a mint mark. Examine the strike. Study the edges. Look for real abnormalities, not just scratches and stains. And remember, the most dangerous words in coin collecting are guaranteed and everyone. If you have a 1991 penny sitting in your collection, take a close look at it today. Then ask yourself one simple question. Is this just an ordinary Philadelphia cent? Or is there something genuinely unusual about the way it was made? That question could turn a boring coin hunt into a fascinating discovery. And even if your penny turns out to be worth only a cent, you have learned something that can help you identify the next coin that really matters. So check those jars, old albums, desk drawers, and forgotten collections. You never know what the mint got wrong until you look closely. If you enjoy uncovering the truth behind rare coin claims, hidden varieties, and the small details collectors search for every day, stick around and subscribe. Because sometimes, the difference between 1 cent and a serious collectible is hiding in a detail most people never notice. What if the ordinary 2006 Lincoln penny sitting in your pocket right now is hiding a detail that could completely change what you think it is worth? Before you spend another one, stop. Because the 2006 penny with no mint mark has been surrounded by some incredible value claims online, including stories of million-dollar coins. But here is where things get interesting. The truth is much more surprising than the headline. Today, we are going to take a close look at the 2006 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, find out what that missing letter really means, uncover the mistakes that cause people to overvalue these coins, and reveal what can actually make a 2006 penny valuable. And stay with me because near the end, we will talk about the one thing you should check before deciding your coin is worth only 1 cent. First, take a look at the date. 2006. That year might not sound especially old. After all, millions of Americans were still using these pennies every day. They were dropped into parking meters, tossed into jars, left in drawers, and forgotten in the bottoms of purses. But there is one detail collectors always look for: the mint mark. On many Lincoln cents, you will see a tiny letter underneath the date. A D means Denver. An S means San Francisco on coins produced there for collectors. But if your 2006 Lincoln penny has no mint mark, that does not automatically mean something went wrong. In fact, it usually means something very normal. Philadelphia-produced Lincoln cents traditionally carried no mint mark. And that little fact is extremely important. A 2006 penny without a mint mark can be a Philadelphia issue, and Philadelphia produced enormous quantities of Lincoln cents during this period. That means the absence of a mint mark alone does not make your coin rare. Wait, though. Because this is exactly where many people stop looking. They see no mint mark, hear a story about a rare penny, and immediately assume they have discovered a fortune. But serious collectors do something different. They inspect the entire coin. And that is where the mystery begins. The 2006 Lincoln cent features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, just as Lincoln cents have since 1909. The reverse carries the familiar Lincoln Memorial design, which remained on the penny until 2008. So why would anyone claim a 2006 penny could be worth extraordinary money? Usually, the answer involves a mistake, an error, an unusual condition, or an exaggerated internet listing. And there is a huge difference between an asking price and a confirmed selling price. Anyone can put a penny online for $1 million. That does not mean someone will actually pay $1 million for it. This distinction is one of the biggest secrets in the coin world. A dramatic listing can make a coin look priceless overnight, but experienced collectors look for documented sales, professional grading, and verifiable rarity. So if you own a 2006 penny with no mint mark, should you throw it back into circulation? Not so fast. Take another look. Start with the date. Is the 2006 clearly visible? Now look underneath it. Do you see a tiny D? If you do, you have a Denver issue. If there is no letter, you likely have the Philadelphia version. And remember, no mint mark does not mean error by itself. That is one of the most important facts in this entire video. Now flip the coin over. Look closely at the Lincoln Memorial. Check the lettering. Look at the columns. Examine the edges of the letters and numbers. Why? Because genuine mint errors can sometimes transform an ordinary coin into something collectors actively pursue. A dramatic doubling error, an off-center strike, a major die break, a wrong planchet error, or another authenticated mint mistake can be far more interesting than an ordinary example. But there is another trap. Damage. A coin can look strange without being rare. If Lincoln's portrait appears flattened, someone may have rubbed it. If letters look stretched, the coin could have suffered damage. If the edge looks unusual, it may have been altered after leaving the mint. If the surface is scratched, discolored, bent, polished, or chemically changed, that does not automatically create a valuable error. This is where the average person and an experienced collector can see two completely different things. One person sees a weird penny. The other asks, was this created at the mint, or did it happen afterward? That question can make all the difference. Now let's talk about condition. A 2006 penny that spent years in circulation will usually show scratches, contact marks, dirt, and wear. That is normal. But imagine finding one that was barely handled. The original copper-colored surface is bright. The design is sharp. The lettering is crisp. The tiny details around Lincoln are still strong. That kind of preservation can make a modern coin much more interesting to collectors, especially when it receives a high professional grade. And this is where the value conversation gets complicated. A normal 2006 Philadelphia Lincoln cent is not $1 million coin. In fact, most examples are worth around their face value, with collectible premiums possible for exceptional condition or unusual varieties and errors. So why are we talking about million-dollar claims? Because the internet loves the phrase, 1 cent coin worth millions. It gets clicks, creates curiosity, and sometimes a completely ordinary coin gets mixed into a story about a genuinely rare error from another year. That is how confusion spreads. A famous error penny from one date gets discussed. Someone posts a 2006 penny next to it, and suddenly people begin searching for a 2006 penny worth $1 million. But collecting does not work that way. The date has to match. The mint mark has to match. The error has to be genuine. The condition matters. And most importantly, the coin must have a documented market. So here's the surprising part. Your 2006 no mint mark penny can still be worth checking. Not because every example is secretly worth a fortune, but because valuable coins can sometimes hide in ordinary places. Imagine someone cleaning out an old desk drawer. They find a handful of pennies. Most are completely ordinary. One has an unusual strike. Another has a strange-looking rim. One is remarkably well preserved. And suddenly, that 5-minute inspection becomes the beginning of a much more interesting discovery. That is why collectors inspect coins carefully. The goal is not to believe every million-dollar story. The goal is to know what you actually have. And there is another detail many people overlook. Never clean a potentially valuable coin. This sounds harmless, but cleaning can damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. A shiny penny is not necessarily a valuable penny. In fact, an improperly polished coin can be worth less than an untouched example. So if your 2006 penny looks unusual, leave it alone. Put it somewhere safe. Handle it by the edges. And if you think you have a genuine mint error, consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. Now let's return to the million-dollar question. Could a normal 2006 Lincoln penny with no mint mark realistically be worth $1 million? No. There is no good reason to treat an ordinary 2006 Philadelphia cent as $1 million coin simply because it lacks a mint mark. That is the reveal many viral videos leave out. But does that mean your penny is worthless? Absolutely not. A coin can be interesting without being worth $1 million. And a genuine error can be worth substantially more than face value. The key is identifying what makes your individual coin different. So here is your challenge. Go find your 2006 Lincoln pennies. Don't just look at the date. Check the mint mark. Check the reverse. Inspect the lettering. Look for unusual doubling. Look at the rim. Look for major striking abnormalities. And compare your coin with known examples from reputable numismatic sources. Then ask yourself one simple question. Is this coin unusual because the mint made it that way, or because something happened to it after it left the mint? That question can save you from throwing away something interesting, and it can also save you from believing an exaggerated price claim. And here's something else to remember. The most valuable coin in your collection does not always look impressive. Sometimes rarity is hiding in a tiny detail that you can barely see. A missing letter, a doubled design, a strange edge, an unusual planchet, a dramatic strike, or an exceptionally preserved surface. That's why coin collecting is so addictive. You can hold a coin worth 1 cent in one hand and a coin worth hundreds or thousands in the other, and at first glance, they may look almost identical. Only careful examination reveals the difference. So if you have a 2006 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, don't panic, and don't assume you've found $1 million treasure. Instead, take a closer look. The missing mint mark is normal for Philadelphia. The real opportunity is finding something genuinely unusual beyond that. And remember, the biggest mistake you can make is judging a coin by its date alone. Because sometimes, the tiny detail everyone else ignores is exactly what makes a coin worth investigating. So check your change jar, your old coin rolls, your desk drawers, and those forgotten containers of pennies sitting around the house. You might not find a million 2006 penny, but you could discover an interesting error, a high-grade survivor, or another coin hiding in plain sight. And that is the real thrill, because you never know what you are holding until you look closely. If you enjoy uncovering the truth behind rare coins, hidden varieties, and valuable pieces hiding in everyday change, make sure you subscribe. There are plenty more pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters waiting to be examined. And the next coin you pick up could be the one detail you almost missed. What if a penny you could spend for 1 cent is hiding a value that sounds completely unbelievable? Imagine finding a 2007 Lincoln penny with a tiny D mint mark and wondering, could this really be worth $1 million? Before you toss it into a jar, stay with me, because the real story behind this coin is more surprising than the headline. Today, we're taking a close look at the 2007 D Lincoln cent, the small copper-colored coin that millions of Americans have handled without giving it a second thought. You'll learn what the D means, what makes a 2007 penny collectible, which mistakes can create real value, and why some internet claims about million-dollar pennies need a very careful second look. And near the end, I'll show you exactly what to inspect before deciding your coin is just pocket change. First, look at the date, 2007. Then look beneath it, near the right side of Lincoln's portrait. If you see a small letter D, that means the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. And here's the first twist. A D mint mark does not automatically make a penny rare. In fact, 2007 D cents were produced in enormous numbers. Most are ordinary coins, and most are worth about their face value in circulated condition. So why are people talking about huge prices? Because with coins, the date alone is rarely the whole story. Think about a jar of pennies sitting on a kitchen shelf. You might have dozens of 2007 cents mixed together. At a glance, they look identical. But a serious collector does not stop at the date. They examine the strike, surfaces, lettering, mint mark, color, and every tiny detail that could reveal an unusual error. That is where the mystery begins. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that every strange-looking penny is a valuable mint error. A coin can look damaged because it was dropped, scraped, squeezed, chemically altered, or exposed to heat. Those things can make a penny look unusual, but they usually do not make it rare. A genuine mint error is different. It happens during the manufacturing process, before the coin reaches your pocket. And because certain errors are uncommon, collectors can sometimes pay significant premiums for verified examples. So, what should you look for on a 2007 D? Start with the obvious. Check Lincoln's portrait. Look at the date. Examine the D mint mark. Then move your eyes around the entire coin. Watch the lettering. Look for doubling. But here is where many people get fooled. Not every doubled-looking letter is a true doubled die. Machine doubling, die deterioration, scratches, and lighting can create shapes that look dramatic under a phone camera. A genuine double die involves a specific type of die-making error and usually produces recognizable, consistent doubling on particular design elements. So don't celebrate just because the Liberty letters look weird. There's another important detail. The 2007 Lincoln cent has a zinc core with a thin copper coating. If that coating is damaged, the coin can develop unusual colors or exposed areas. Those changes may look rare, but damage alone generally does not create $1 million coin. Now let's talk about the $1 million claim. You may have seen videos, posts, or listings suggesting that an ordinary 2007 D penny can be worth $1 million. That sounds incredible. It is also exactly the kind of claim that should make you stop and investigate. There is no reason to assume that a normal 2007 D Lincoln cent is worth anywhere close to $1 million simply because it has a D mint mark. In other words, if you find one in your change tonight, do not quit your job tomorrow. But, and this is important, that does not mean you should ignore it. The value of a coin can change dramatically when a rare, authenticated error or an exceptional condition is involved. The key word is authenticated. Imagine two pennies from the same year. One has been in circulation for years. Its surfaces are scratched, its color is dull, and the details are worn. The other is exceptionally preserved, with sharp design details and nearly untouched surfaces. A collector may view those coins very differently. Now imagine a third coin with a legitimate mint error. Suddenly, the conversation changes. This is why condition matters so much. Professional grading services examine coins and assign grades based on their preservation. For modern cents, extremely high grades can be much more difficult to achieve than you might expect. Tiny marks that you barely notice can prevent a coin from reaching the highest levels. And there is another trap. People often confuse a coin being old with a coin being rare. A 2007 penny is not especially old in the world of American coin collecting. Millions were made. Age alone does not create rarity. Supply, demand, condition, errors, varieties, and historical importance all play roles. So, if you have a 2007 D penny, what should you actually do? First, don't clean it. This is one of the worst mistakes a new collector can make. Scrubbing, polishing, rubbing, or using chemicals can permanently damage the surface. A shiny penny is not automatically a valuable penny. In many cases, cleaning can actually reduce collector appeal. Instead, handle the coin carefully by its edges. Use good lighting. Take clear photos of both sides. And if you believe you have a genuine mint error, compare it with trusted references or seek an opinion from an established numismatist or professional grading service. Now, here's a fun challenge. Go find your change jar. Seriously. Pull out every 2007 D cent you can find. You might discover that most are ordinary. That is completely normal. But while you're looking, you are also training your eyes to notice the tiny differences collectors care about. Check Lincoln's ear. Check the date. Check the letters. Check the rim. Check the reverse. And look for anything that appears to have happened during striking rather than after the coin left the mint. If something looks suspicious, don't immediately believe a viral price tag. Document it. Compare it. Then get it evaluated. Because the most dangerous number in coin collecting is sometimes not 1 cent or $1 million. It's an unsupported claim. A seller can list a penny online for $1 million. That does not mean someone actually paid $1 million for it. Asking prices are not the same as confirmed auction results. That distinction can save you from both disappointment and bad decisions. So what about the 2007 D Lincoln cent itself? For the vast majority of examples, it is a common modern penny with little value above face value. High-grade uncirculated examples can attract collector interest, and legitimate errors or unusual varieties may be worth more. But a normal 2007 D cent should not be marketed as a $1 million coin. And yet, there is something exciting about that. The fact that most are common makes the search possible. These coins entered everyday commerce. They went through cash registers, vending machines, bankrolls, and household coin jars. That means ordinary people can still encounter them. You don't need a treasure chest. You need attention. And maybe a little patience. Now picture this, you're standing at a grocery store checkout. The cashier gives you a handful of change. You notice a 2007 D penny. Normally, you would drop it into your pocket without thinking. But this time, you look closer. The coin has an unusual feature. You take it home. You compare it with other examples. You discover that the feature is not damage. It appears to be connected to the striking process. That is the moment a boring penny becomes a research project. Maybe it turns out to be nothing. Maybe it is an interesting variety. Or maybe, in the rarest circumstances, it is an authenticated error that collectors genuinely want. That uncertainty is what makes coin hunting so addictive. So before you spend your next penny, remember the lesson of the 2007 D Lincoln cent. The tiny D is a clue, not a jackpot. The date is a starting point, not a guarantee. The $1,000,000 story is not something you should accept without proof. And the real treasure may be the unusual error or exceptional condition hiding behind an ordinary appearance. And remember, rarity is proven through evidence, not rumors, screenshots, or unbelievable listings. That simple rule can protect your collection from costly mistakes. If you have a 2007 D penny in your collection, tell me what yours looks like. Is it worn? Is it bright and uncirculated? Do you see unusual doubling, lettering, damage, or anything that makes you stop and stare? Take a close look before you spend it. Because sometimes the most interesting coin in the room is the one everyone else already decided was worthless. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories behind American coins, stick around. There are plenty more dates, mint marks, errors, and mysteries worth checking before that next piece of pocket change disappears. What if I told you that a 2015 Lincoln penny sitting in a jar, drawer, or cup holder could make you stop and look twice? Some videos claim a 2015 penny with no mint mark is worth $1,000,000. But before you start digging through every penny you own, there is a much more interesting mystery hiding behind that claim. Because the truth about this coin is not simply, it has no mint mark, so it must be rare. In fact, that detail can mean something completely different. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, which mistakes can destroy value, and why one tiny difference can turn an ordinary penny into something collectors actually want. Start with the basics. The coin we're talking about is the 2015 Lincoln cent, featuring President Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It is the familiar 1-cent coin millions of Americans handled without giving it a second thought. Now here is the first surprise. If your 2015 penny has no mint mark beneath Lincoln's date, that does not automatically mean it is a rare error. In 2015, pennies made at the Philadelphia Mint generally carried no mint mark. That means a 2015 penny without a mint letter can be completely normal. So why are people talking about huge values? Because no mint mark sounds mysterious. And sometimes a genuine minting error really can be valuable. But there is a massive difference between a normal Philadelphia penny and a rare error coin. That difference is where the real story begins. Imagine finding an old penny in a drawer. You turn it over. You see 2015. No D, no S, nothing under the date. Your heart jumps. Could this be the $1,000,000 coin everyone is talking about? Hold on. This is where many people make their biggest mistake. They see one unusual-looking detail and immediately assume the coin is rare. But professional collectors do not value a coin because of one exciting word. They examine the entire piece. The date matters. The minting process matters. The condition matters. The metal matters. The strike matters. And most importantly, any suspected error has to be genuine. Let's take a closer look. A normal 2015 Philadelphia Lincoln cent should have no mint mark. That is exactly what you would expect. It is not, by itself, evidence of a missing mint mark error. Think about that for a second. A coin can look wrong to someone who does not know the production history, while looking completely normal to an experienced numismatist. And that is why this particular penny creates so much confusion. But there is another detail you should never ignore. Condition. Most 2015 pennies entered circulation. They were dropped, scratched, rubbed against other coins, exposed to moisture, and handled thousands of times. A circulated example is generally worth little more than its face value unless it has a significant collectible feature. But a sharply preserved coin can be more interesting. If the surfaces are bright, the design is crisp, and there are very few marks, collectors may pay more for exceptional quality. Certified examples in high grades can bring stronger prices than ordinary pocket change. Still, that does not mean every shiny 2015 penny is valuable. Here comes another trap. People sometimes confuse shine with quality. A penny can look bright because someone cleaned or polished it. That can actually hurt its collectible value. Collectors usually prefer original surfaces. So if you find a 2015 penny that looks unusually beautiful, do not grab a cloth and start rubbing it. Put it down. Examine it carefully. Cleaning can leave scratches. Remove the original surface, and make an otherwise interesting coin less desirable. Now let's talk about errors. This is where things get exciting. Modern coins can sometimes leave the mint with unusual mistakes. A design may be struck incorrectly. A planchet can have an abnormal shape. A coin can receive an unusual strike. Details can appear doubled, distorted, missing, or misplaced. But there is a critical rule. A strange-looking coin is not automatically an error. Damage happens after the coin leaves the mint. A coin can be crushed by machinery, scraped across concrete, bent, chemically altered, heated, scratched, or exposed to harsh conditions. Those events can create dramatic-looking marks that have nothing to do with the minting process. And here is the pattern interrupt that could save you from a costly mistake. If the strange feature looks like damage around only one area, be suspicious. A genuine mint error usually has a logical relationship to the manufacturing process. For example, if you think the coin has doubling, look closely at the lettering and date. True double dies can show distinct separation or doubling in specific design elements. Random scratches beside letters are something entirely different. If you think the coin has missing material, inspect the shape and surfaces carefully. If you think the coin is made from the wrong metal, do not rely on color alone. Why? Because color can be changed by chemistry, heat, environmental exposure, or cleaning. And now we reach the million-dollar question. Is a normal 2015 Lincoln penny with no mint mark worth $1 million? No. There is no reason to treat an ordinary 2015 Philadelphia cent as a million-dollar coin simply because it lacks a mint mark. That may sound disappointing, but actually, it is good news. Because now you know the difference between internet hype and real numismatic value. A coin worth an extraordinary amount would need extraordinary evidence. Think about the chain of proof. You would want the coin to have a legitimate and highly unusual minting characteristic. You would want experts to examine it. You would want its authenticity established. And if the value were truly enormous, documented auction history or a recognized rarity would be essential. That is how coin collecting works. Not every viral claim is a treasure map. Sometimes the treasure is knowing what you actually have. But let's make this even more interesting. Suppose you pull a 2015 no mint mark penny from your change and notice something strange. Maybe the date appears doubled. Maybe the lettering looks unusually distorted. Maybe the coin has an odd shape. Maybe the color looks completely different from other cents. Should you throw it back? Not yet. Set it aside. Do not clean it. Do not scratch it. Do not attempt to fix it. Take clear photographs of both sides, including the date and the area that looks unusual. Compare it with a normal 2015 cent. If the difference still looks legitimate, consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or a professional grading service. That simple decision could protect you from destroying evidence of a genuine error. And there is one more thing collectors care about: provenance. If an unusual coin has a documented history, that can make it much easier to evaluate. Where did it come from? Was it found in circulation? Was it purchased from a known collection? Has it been professionally examined? The more evidence you have, the stronger your case becomes. Now imagine two pennies sitting on a table. They both say 2015. They both have no mint mark. To the average person, they are identical. But one is a normal Philadelphia cent. The other has a legitimate, rare minting error confirmed by experts. That is the mystery of modern coins. The date alone does not tell the whole story. And neither does the missing letter. You have to inspect the entire coin. Another important point is the composition. Modern U.S. cents are copper-plated zinc, not solid copper like many older Lincoln cents. That means a 2015 penny should not be valued like a vintage copper Lincoln cent simply because it has a copper-colored appearance. This is another common source of confusion online. Someone finds a penny that looks different, measures it, weighs it, and immediately declares it a rare metal error. But serious identification requires more than a guess. Weight, diameter, edge appearance, surface characteristics, and professional testing can all matter. If you suspect a wrong planchet or wrong metal error, expert authentication becomes especially important. Now, here is your challenge. Go find a 2015 Lincoln penny. Look underneath the date. If there is no mint mark, do not celebrate yet. Instead, ask yourself 3 questions. Does the coin look unusually well preserved? Does anything appear genuinely wrong with the strike or design? And can you explain that unusual feature as a minting mistake rather than damage that happened later? If the answer to all 3 is yes, you may have something worth investigating. If the answer is no, you probably have a normal Philadelphia cent. And that is perfectly okay. Because coin collecting is not only about finding million-dollar treasures. It is about learning how ordinary objects can reveal history, manufacturing technology, and unexpected stories. Think about where that little penny may have traveled. It could have passed through a grocery store, a vending machine, a restaurant register, or a child's collection. Could have spent years in someone's change jar before ending up in your hands. For 1 cent, that is a pretty interesting journey. And sometimes the most valuable thing you discover is not the price tag. It is the knowledge that prevents you from being fooled. So if you have a 2015 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, keep it for a moment before spending it. Check both sides. Look at the date. Inspect Lincoln's portrait. Study the lettering. Examine the reverse. Compare the coin with another 2015 cent. And if you notice something truly unusual, get a second opinion before making any decision. Because the biggest mistake would be assuming that every 2015 no mint mark penny is a $1,000,000 coin. The second biggest mistake would be assuming every unusual looking penny is worthless. The truth is somewhere in between. Most are ordinary. A few may be interesting, and a genuinely rare, authenticated mint error can be a completely different story. So tell me in the comments, do you have a 2015 penny with no mint mark? And does yours show anything unusual? Check your change before you spend it. You never know which tiny detail might be hiding in plain sight. And if you enjoy discovering the real stories behind America's coins, subscribe for more hidden money secrets, rare coin mysteries, and the small details that collectors know can make all the difference.